Hello, my name is Jane Gatzmeyer, and I'm going to be discussing the life and work of James Weldon Johnson, who wrote the autobiography of an ex-colored man. Let's begin by discussing Johnson's early life. James Weldon Johnson was born in 1871. He graduated from Atlanta University in 1894. After his freshman year, he taught in the summer of 1891. He taught descendants of former slaves in rural Georgia, and what he says about this time in his life, he says this: "In all of my experience, there has been no period so brief that has meant so much in my education for life as the 3 months I spent in the backwoods of Georgia. I was thrown for the first time on my own resources and abilities." Post-graduation, Johnson founded and edited the Daily American newspaper in 1895. This was at a time when Southern legislatures were passing laws that disenfranchised blacks and passing Jim Crow laws to impose racial segregation. This newspaper covered both racial and political topics. It was terminated a year later due to financial difficulty. These early endeavors were the start of Johnson's long period of activism. He worked as a teacher after graduation and prepared for the bar exam by reading the law. In 1897, he was the first African American admitted to the Florida bar exam since the Reconstruction era ended. He was also the first black in Duval County to seek admission to the state bar. In order to be accepted, he had a 2-hour oral examination before 3 attorneys and a judge. He later recalled, "One of the examiners left the room after the examination had ended because he did not want to see a black man admitted to the Florida bar." Johnson also had a music career, along with his brother Rosamond. The two brothers moved to New York City in 1901. They went there to pursue a career in musical theater. Rosamond would write the music, and James would write the lyrics. Together they wrote "Lift Every Voice and Sing," which later became known as the Negro National Anthem, and was Johnson's most popular poem. A line from this song says, "Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won." Both Rosamond and James had short careers on Broadway in their time in New York. Now I'll begin speaking on Johnson's activism. He became treasurer of the Colored Republican Club in 1904. 1 year later, he was elected president of this club. He organized political rallies while in this role. He was also very involved in the campaign to pass the anti-Dreyer lynching bill and spoke at the 1919 National Conference on Lynching. While working in his activism career, he was also very involved with the NAACP. He eventually became the first executive secretary, which was a very high role, and basically he was in charge of all operations. He helped increase membership and extended the movement's reach by organizing numerous new chapters in the South, and he did this as first executive secretary. After the NAACP, he also had a diplomatic career under the Roosevelt administration. He was the consul to Venezuela and Nicaragua. While he was here in Venezuela and Nicaragua, he wrote large chunks of an autobiography of an ex-colored man, as well as other pieces of literature that he was writing, such as poems and essays and such. But he's mainly known for writing large chunks of this book while he was a consul to Venezuela and Nicaragua. In his later years, Johnson worked as the Spence Chair of Creative Literature at Fisk University. This position was created for him, and he held it until his death. And he was given this position because of the work and because of the poems he had written and the other creative writing, such as the autobiography of an ex-colored man. James Weldon Johnson died in 1938 in Wissahickon, Maine. He was there vacationing with his wife, and they were hit by a train in their car. Very unfortunate death, and he was only 69 years old. My math might be wrong, but he was in his 60s. Now I'm going to discuss the book An Autobiography of an Ex-Colored Man. This book was published in 1912, and when it was published originally, it was anonymous. James Weldon Johnson did not take credit for writing this book. It was then republished in 1927 after it had taken off and was very popular. And at this then, James Weldon Johnson was given credit for the writing. This book is a fictional account of a biracial man living in post-Reconstruction America. He only refers to himself, the man is the narrator, and he only refers to himself as the ex-colored man. And the reason he is known as an ex-colored man is because his life experiences make him choose to pass as white to secure safety. One of these life experiences that caused him to make this decision to try and fit into white society and disregard the fact that he has African American roots was that he witnessed a lynching, and it really scared him. What he says about the lynching is he says, "He squirmed, he withered, strained at his chains, then gave out cries and groans that I shall always hear." This is what the narrator says about witnessing the lynching, and what ultimately makes him decide that he doesn't want to associate himself with being an African American and would rather pretend to be fully white to avoid discrimination and hate crimes and a potential lynching of himself. As he goes on, he feels as though he has given up his dream of glorifying the black race by composing ragtime music. So he passes as white and then slowly starts to realize that he gave up a lot in choosing to do that. Johnson wrote openly about the issues of race and discrimination that were not common then in literature. He did this is why he originally published the book anonymously, because he didn't want to have to deal with the repercussions of what it meant to write something like that in the early 20th century. Later, after the book had taken off, he took credit for the novel. Some of the themes that I noticed in this book and that I read about, one of them is fear. This is because the ex-colored man was afraid of what his life would look like if he didn't hide who he was. He hid his true identity from everyone in his life, including his wife. He didn't tell his wife until the very end of the novel that he was actually a colored man. He pretended until the end with every single person in his life. Another theme that I noticed in the book was comparison. Shiny, which was the ex-colored man's good childhood friend, is a successful Negro, is a professor at a university, and did so much to grow and spur on activism for black people. Meanwhile, the ex-colored man is hiding who he is and pretending to be fully white. And watching his friend Shiny makes the ex-colored man question if he made the right choice, as he is comparing his life of hiding to Shiny's life of embracing who he is. Another theme that I noticed in this novel, and that was pointed out to me through researching and reading analyses of this novel, was a tragic mulatto. And what that is it was a common fictional character in late 19th century and early 20th century novels, and it was this character who struggles to fit in with both black society and white society. And we see this very clearly in An Autobiography of an Ex-Colored Man, as the ex-colored man struggles to fit into black society and white society, as he struggles to figure out who he is. He's trying to fit into white society, but he knows he doesn't quite belong there. But he can't fit into black society because he's spent his entire life pretending to be white. And as I said, this was a classic character for novels written at this time. My sources for this presentation were the Wikipedia page for James Weldon Johnson, as well as the Wikipedia page for the autobiography of an ex-colored man. Another source that I used was the actual novel, An Autobiography of an Ex-Colored Man, that was a course required book for this class. Thank you.